I really love using muscle testing as an additional tool to aid on the healing and growing journey. You probably all are aware that so much of our brain power, brain activity is going on the subconscious level, and only a tiny fraction of it is in the cognitive aware thinking level. And so, what's going on back there? There's so much help that we can find from the subconscious and also from our body. And of course, there are lots of ways to access this information, and the one that I am talking about today is muscle testing. This works with the idea that when something is true for you, your body gets a tiny bit stronger, and when something is false or bad for you, it gets weaker. So, for example, I can just say my name is Marta, and I use my fingers in this way, and my fingers stay nice and strong together. And I can say my name is Alyssa, and it's false. And other people do the sway method where you say, it would be good for me to eat chocolate right now, and you might get a yes, or you might get a no, depending on what's right for your body at that moment in time. I also use a pendulum, and I've already just said some things that my cognitive brain might be influencing, but I've used the pendulum with my son, where we play around with. He writes words on papers, flips them over, so I have no idea what the words are, and we just ask, is this a positive word? And things like love, peace, connection always gets my pendulum swings in a circle for yes, and things like war, hate, fighting go into a no. And that's kind of fun because I don't even know what it says on those papers, so it's been just like a fun way to play around and test, am I getting accurate answers? One of the super cool things about muscle testing is anybody can learn how to do it. I learned how to do it from a book, The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. He's got a big chapter in there about all the different ways you might experiment with, including the sway, including finger on finger. A very common one is ring and ring method, and lots more. And what I did for the first week was just ask to clear any trapped imbalances using the emotion code chart, trapped emotions, that got in the way of me trusting myself, that got in the way of me muscle testing, that got in the way of me being able to trust my muscle testing. And after a week, I had a pretty solid feeling of what my yes felt like and what the no felt like. And yeah, so that was a good way to start. This does take a leap of faith for a lot of people because we are not trained to trust body signals in this way. We are trained to trust the thinking brain and the analytical brain. And this is bypassing that part of our brain. And for a lot of people, that's brings up skepticism, it brings up distrust, it might feel destabilizing, like what? How is that even possible? And another layer that asks for a leap of faith is that when we do muscle testing, we can do it for people who aren't even in the room with us. So a lot of my clients, we meet virtually, or family members, we meet virtually, so we are not together. And, all sorts of information comes up that people are like, how could you have even known that? And of course, it could be a coincidence, but, it builds up over time of well, I'm onto something here. And one of my favorite stories is with a client, the first thing that came up for her was dealing with radioactivity. And I thought, that's unusual. And I felt a little embarrassed telling her we were going to address radioactivity. And she said, oh, that makes total sense. I grew up near Chernobyl. And I was like, oh, well, sure, that does make sense. And I didn't know that information in advance. And so I find that muscle testing becomes an added way of efficiency. And I found in my personal growing and healing journey, I started really in depth with my efforts to grow using IFS, which is inner parts work, internal family systems. And working with my parts was so fantastic. But I remember so often saying, I feel like I'm fumbling around in the dark here. Can't tell what's happening, and I don't know where to go. And so this is like a shortcut to getting to the heart of the matter. It's a lot less fumbling around in the dark. Our subconscious and higher selves are guiding the way. And so this becomes more efficient. We get to laser in on top priorities. And I find when we do that, a lot of times just naming, okay, this is the first thing that we're going to address. When it feels true to people, especially sensitive people, there's a ring of truth in the body. And somehow the body responds just to the naming of it, just bringing it to the level of awareness. And so sometimes people start crying, or there might be energy moving or trembling or shaking, or belly softening, or even feeling sick to your stomach or wanting to run away and hide. All of those are the body's signals of saying, yes, we are on track here. So muscle testing is one thing, but then we combine it with intuition, your body sense, your own knowing. And sometimes people say, actually, I don't think that's right. And then we go back and check and find out. And so, like your intuition knows so much. And I highly, highly trust that. So if somebody says, I don't think that's it, we definitely slow down and start to investigate what's going on there. And the way I use it is in conjunction with some energy modalities that are specifically designed to work with muscle testing. So I have many, many charts that I work through. And so what we do is we find out what is the top imbalance that we're going to address for whatever your intention is. What is the top imbalance to address? And which chart do we want to start with? So then we find that imbalance. And then with that imbalance, there's always almost always underlying causes. So especially if it's a big deal. So for me, like the thing that got me into this world is performance anxiety. So that's a big deal. You're not going to just solve that with one round of energy healing. Instead, if it's like puzzle pieces, we've got this puzzle of performance anxiety, and it has all these interlocking pieces that they all hold together in place to keep a sort of stability with the situation. And we have to work our way down to the piece that's at the bottom of the chain. And so we might find, 1, 2, 5, 10 layers to get to the bottom. And then at the bottom, we start releasing it through the different techniques and work our way back up to the main centerpiece. And along the way, there's like all sorts of gifts that are uncovered, that you learn about yourself. Other things are released, things you didn't even know were contributing. It's not a linear path. And so like performance anxiety, there's a lot of contributing factors. There's physical, mental, emotional, heart factors, all sorts of layers that we want to address to get to the most holistic clearing around performance anxiety. So if this appeals to you, I encourage you to try learning how to do muscle testing. There's tons of information. I'll put a few things in the YouTube notes. And of course, reach out to me if you'd like to try a session with using this, and you can feel for yourself how it works for you. You can find more about me at marta@innerartistry.space. And yeah, love to hear how things are going, how your journey is going, what's working for you, what's not. And thanks for watching.